Welcome to a new segment that I'm going to call Potpourri. And this is where I address certain questions that come up in the comments of my videos or in videos of other creators. I'm also going to talk about information about the Idaho 4 case that I see on social media, specifically alternative theories as well as misinformation. And on that note, I want to talk about something that I just saw in Harsh Reality's latest video. He asked the question of his viewers, do they think that the suspects were all asleep when they were attacked? And he cites the coroner's interview, Kathy Mabbitt. He cites her interview and her quote of saying that they were all in bed at the time of the attack as, you know, was that factual or was she misspeaking? We don't know. We don't know if Xana ended up on the floor or was attacked on that spot. We don't know. What's important to remember is when coroners are giving interviews, they're asked to be very careful about what details they reveal about the crime scene. And that's so that the police can filter through the tips and focus on credible ones. And so that they can, you know, let's say someone came forward and said, yeah, that was me. And they were all of them, they were all asleep when I attacked them. Because sadly, some people like to insert themselves into these crimes. So someone comes forward and they say that and they go, well, we know they're lying because one of the victims was found on the floor. So that's why the coroner might have said they were all in bed, to prevent certain details from getting out and so that the police didn't have to deal with a lot of kooks, basically. Now, on the subject of Ethan and Xana, Harsh also brings up, again, this frat party fight. And again, I will ask, where is the proof that this happened? Harsh says that Xana's parents, family, sibling, I don't know, was making a trip up because they heard about this fight.
Except that being downplayed. But this night has been a series of things being downplayed. Like the fight that Xana and Ethan had been involved in. Apparently, Xana's family were that sort of concerned that they were even going to drive up. I believe it was only because someone had been drinking, perhaps, and they'd said, look, you can't drive up there, so they didn't.
Unless I'm misunderstanding him, he's stating this as fact. But as far as I can tell, there's nothing out there that supports this opinion, that this statement, that Xana's family was coming to see her because of this fight, or that this fight ever occurred. So if someone could leave a comment and let me know where this was brought up, where this was talked about, and I want to add a disclaimer here that if this came from Karen Northington, I think she's sort of an unreliable narrator in that she didn't have much of a relationship with Xana at the time of her death, and I don't know that she would be privy to certain details of the case, given what her legal issues going on at the time. So I don't know that if it was Karen Northington that said this, I'm not really sure how reliable that information is. Now I want to talk about something that's been discussed since it was first leaked 11 months ago. And it's the video and audio of Hoodie Guy walking Maddie and Kaylee to the grub truck. Now I'm going to play this for you, and then I'm going to tell you what I think I hear.
How did you say that?
I've played this on multiple devices, headphones, real old-fashioned, earbuds with the little cord that would stick into my laptop, my Wi-Fi speaker. And what I hear is Hoodie Guy say to the girls, we're going to get you girls something to eat, and then you're going to go home. Now, what's very clear to me in this video is we're going to get you girls. That is very clear. So I can understand why people think that what he's actually saying is they're going to get you girls. But I think the actual statement is, we're going to get you girls something to eat and then you're going to go home. But I can totally understand why so many people think that it was something more nefarious, which I don't happen to think it was. And it didn't help that, that cryptic, what did you tell Adam? I told Adam everything. That too fed into this idea that whatever was being discussed was something sort of secretive, something sort of maybe a little bit nefarious or suspect in some way or dangerous. So I want to hear, in the comments, I want to hear what you think you heard him say in this video. Now, speaking of Jack Showalter, who is Hoodie Guy, I want to show you something, and it's a clip from an interview that that Joe DeVito gave, and I believe Joe owns the Grub Truck. And he was talking about Hoodie Guy and saying that he was this good, he's a good guy, friends with Maddie's boyfriend, who was just seeing these two girls who had been drinking home. And it's crazy to think all the intense speculation that he received. But in this interview, he says, his friend was 5 hours away and he was just trying to, help him out. And I thought the 5 hour thing was very similar to people saying, and after the murders, he drove 5 hours to a cabin. Coincidence? I don't know. What I also learned from looking into Showalter is his parents are doctors and they sometimes do work in Africa. And Jack Showalter was the one that they said, after the murders, he escaped to Africa. I think this is like a game of telephone where the story starts one way and by the end, all the facts are completely distorted. So I think, the 5 hours in the cabin, was that Jake who was away? Was Jake away that weekend? I'd like to find that out. That might be the next thing I research. And then his parents are obviously the family goes to Africa from time to time. So that could be where that came from. Now let's talk about this clip from the creator Unfiltered Lucky.
If you think about this footage, now we also have to remember we haven't seen one clear image of Brian Kohberger in his car on any footage at all whatsoever that's been released. We have not seen Brian Kohberger behind the wheel of his car in any footage at all whatsoever. I feel
this car that he's talking about, first thing that's important to note is this car was not leaked by law enforcement to the media. This car or this photo was leaked or given to Fox News Digital. And it was given to them by the gas station attendant that went through the CCTV footage and found the footage of the car. And if you look at the frame, you can tell that someone's taking a picture of the screen. So she gave this to Fox News Digital and gave them an interview. Law enforcement did not leak this because law enforcement didn't need this. This car, which was said to have been driving away from the crime scene around 3:45 a.m., was not related to the murders. But I can see why people cite this as evidence or that something to support their belief that the actual timeline of these murders was 3 to 4 a.m. I will say again, law enforcement has never, ever given a specific window of time for these murders. For the same reason why Kathy Mabbitt didn't give a specific small window of time for the murders and was more vague. Law enforcement said early morning hours. And they did that in order to filter out tips or suspects that weren't credible. So it's in their best interest not to be specific or pigeonhole themselves to a specific timeline. Now I want to talk about his comment about why don't they just show us a picture of Kohberger behind the car? They really can't do that because it would taint a jury pool. It would impede his ability to get a fair trial. So just because they haven't shown us those photos doesn't mean they exist. It doesn't mean they don't exist, but also doesn't mean that they do. So just keep that in mind. All right, with all that said, I want to hear, what do you think Hoodie Guy is actually saying in those videos? If you believe that the actual timeline of these murders is 3 to 4 a.m., I want to know why. You can just give me your opinion, you can link to something, whatever it is. I want to hear why.